Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Well Aware podcast. Today, on this episode, I have Amanda Catarzi Hengst with me. Folks, I'm really excited to introduce you to Amanda. Amanda is not only one of my, if not the first client Well Aware has ever had, and I want to say that she rocks as a client, as a provider. I'm really excited to talk to you today about marketing strategy. And in particular, what I'm going to bring to the table is sort of my perspective on marketing operations as it pertains to that strategy. But because we have Amanda with us today, I think we're going to get a huge taste out of what it looks like to think about strategy from a marketing perspective. And frankly, why I think it's so welcomed and so missed in the general operation of business. Because one, it takes a lot of skill set, takes a lot of experience, but also you have to have a certain mindset for it, which I think a lot of CEOs, a lot of business owners, they strive to want to have marketing strategy as something in their wheelhouse, but especially when they lack it the most, it seems to be incredibly difficult to try to find a communication line with them surrounding like what actually makes sense. And of course, we're talking about budget, we're talking about the time to execution, the return on investment, all these things come into play. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Amanda. Hi, Amanda.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I'm just excited to be here. And I love that claim to fame that I was the one, if maybe potentially quite possibly the first client of Wellaware. So that's a badge of honor I wear.
I want to say that the experiences that you and I got to share around time and calendar management and sort of seeing that from the perspective of where your business was. And this was at the time in which you really focused mainly on copywriting as an agency. And that included graphic design and a couple other components. But needless to say, you're in a totally different ballgame now. You're leagues up in terms of the realm of like what like a fractional CMO provides and brings to the table. And I think that is amazing. But yeah, I mean, I at that time I was just operating as, almost like a simple time management coach. Some might even went out of the way to say therapist. I was like, I probably needed more of the therapy then than the clients. But in any context, we've come a long way.
We have, and it's been really cool to see everything you've built. And I've been watching you, this whole time, and I'm like cheering you on constantly because I remember when we first met. And this is entirely true. You literally 2x'd my business. I thought I was the most dedicated, disciplined, time-aware person out there, and you just came in and blew that out of the water. I was really good at being busy, not productive. And you were the first person to be able to actually show me that and then get me on the right track. So I am eternally grateful for you.
Likewise, I want to share that you gave me an introduction to marketing that was most required.
Cheers to
most
us.
Required. And I think in kind, you also kicked off a very positive journey into my world of networking. That's something that I know I could probably talk about in a whole other episode, but needless to say, I owe you immense gratitude for just introducing me to some of the folks who ended up being my next client and my next client, or at least, kicking off the community interactions that led to that as well. So again, I'm here because of you.
So we've definitely established that we like each other and we think each other.
Yeah.
The love fest.
But to your point, Amanda, it is so. I have found it as an operator for hire, no less. I have found it so difficult to come into another business's world, especially on the marketing side, and I find it incredibly challenging to be asked to perform a ton of different executionable tasks and just overall operations within the marketing space, which that's one thing we could talk about today. But I want to communicate today in a fashion that highlights where those operations need to be met with a sound and well understood strategy. Because I've had, and I don't want to share horror stories today, but I've had experiences where I've run an op and I've failed to achieve the expectations of ROI because, unfortunately, after spending so much time on the op, I then suddenly came to the conclusion that, oh my God, the strategy that I was operating on was false or weak at best.
Yeah.
So what is going on with that? Like, what is marketing strategy to you at this point? And what are you recognizing out in the marketplace surrounding where businesses both succeed and fail to meet their own marketing strategy requirements?
And it's surprisingly has not so much to do with marketing and a lot more to do with operations. Because if I'm making a promise of being able to deliver this product or service and I have the greatest ads behind it, but I cannot fulfill it, you have no business. And that will undo any marketing plan so quickly, because if I'm not delivering upon what I've promised, now all the trust that I've worked to build, all the hype and the excitement that I've worked to build through the marketing, I'm now seen as a liar or a hypocrite. So how am I supposed to get that back or even make you marketable if you're not able to supply what I said you're able to supply? And so that's where I've seen the biggest failures over and over and over in businesses. They've got a great product, they have a great marketing strategy or even personnel, but then their operations is absolute crap and falls apart completely under the slightest amount of pressure. And it's people who they've grown rather quickly, which great to them, because again, they have a great product and they might have some good strategy. And now they've grown into an actual business, but they haven't done any of the actual business stuff, SOPs, clear expectations and guidelines for how they do their processes, systems, operations, all that, and everything crumbles underneath that.
So it sounds like, I think we talk a lot about product market fit in the business world. And it seems like there's almost an untouched, at least, branding of operations in between that, where there's product market fit, but then there's product market operations fit, right? Ops being this sort of third component that actually allows the market's expectations around getting to the product or getting to experience the product. So what the assumption here is that once the product is in the user's hands, then it's the product that, and that's already a great thing. Then that should basically run itself, right? Most people, we're not talking about service market fit where that's a different experience where the operation is the delivery of the service itself.
Right.
It sounds like you're almost highlighting from marketing comes sales, from sales comes onboarding, and then from onboarding typically comes the actual experience with the product itself, right? Along with customer success and all these other components. It depends on what type of product we're talking about here. If it's a physical product, we have logistics to handle. If it's a virtual product, we're talking about the actual, what does it mean to get accustomed to and actually know what this product is and how it works. Maybe marketing did a really great job of that, but once you get to the actual experience of all right, now you're getting started, hopefully you don't get lost. Hopefully things are well communicated. I always like to say this thing should be written for dummies. Assume everyone is was born yesterday and is a stranger in a strange land, and communicate down to the lowest common denominator, which is one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. And that's true for any sort of marketing. I naturally write at a 10th grade reading level, but very rarely does the American population read at that level. They read at 4th or 6th. So even in that component, you've hit it on the nail. You have to bring it all the way back down to the most basic, assume nothing, and operate as if everyone has no idea what they're doing, because most of us don't. And that's okay. So if you communicate at that level, you'll avoid making your client feel stupid or your employees feel stupid, because you never want them to feel stupid. Even if they are, you never want them to feel that way. So why communicate at such a high level to where they can't understand you, they can't connect with you, and now you've completely undone anything and everything you're trying to do, any sort of connection at all. And connection is required to make a sale and a good experience for the customer, for the employee, for the client.
I love the quote, I don't expect fish to climb trees. And my usual response to people who are somewhat offended by that, I'm like, dude, just keep swimming. It's okay.
Yeah. One quote that I've been hanging on is that uncommunicated expectations is premeditated violation. And I'm like, holy crap. That's so true.
Yeah. It reminds me of the, and I think it also plays into this role around intentions, right? And how the pathway to hell is paved with them. So I think everyone has the best of intentions about what they're supposed to be doing in the marketplace as a business provider. Mm-hmm. And yet those intentions mean nothing when it comes to recognizing that, unless you communicate and execute on those intentions thoughtfully, clearly, openly, transparently, you're going to find yourself in a game of assumptions that you didn't realize you were actually in.
And you can gaslight the hell out of yourself in that process. Be like, but I used to be that person. Well, that's not what I intended. Well, actually it is if you chose not to get better at communicating and executing. It is.
Yeah.
So that was a hard lesson I had to learn, about a year ago, that nobody cares. Intentions don't put money in your account. Intentions don't pay bills. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Maybe nobody has the capacity to care. I think some people get really offended by that as well. And I'm like, look, we just don't have the time. Logistically, we've got enough work to worry about on our plates. I always found it very comforting when someone's like, remember that really embarrassing thing you did 10 years ago? Nobody else remembers. Only you, because you're the only one who's really focused on you like you are. Everybody else has got their own version of that 10 years ago image of shame that they have in their head. They're wondering the exact same thing. It's a weird thing to commiserate on at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. And I know I communicate rather bluntly, so sorry if nobody cares, we're working on that too.
I think there's a grace to being able to speak frankly. And I think you more than possess it, Amanda. I think too often, especially in the realm of marketing, we don't get a chance to communicate how we really think or feel about what's going on within a particular marketing strategy or particular marketing operation. I find myself challenged to say, hey, you asked me to do these things. You want me to follow through on this workflow. My team, we did the following lead gen operations. We did the following research on these cold call operations so that we could personalize. We followed the rubric that was assigned to us. But if we don't like what results are being created, question our performance any day of the week.
Right.
If we ultimately don't like the results that we're getting, can I go back to the performance of what we're doing and ask if there's something differently that we should be doing? How often do you find yourself on a strategic level, Amanda, sort of making that call to action, and sort of when does that happen and how does it happen? Do you have any examples where it's like, hey, listen, we need to pivot, the market is not responding? And maybe can you share where sort of on one end, there's the CEO or the business owner who's like, okay, got it, makes sense, Amanda, this is what I hired you for, versus no, this is how I want to do things. Like this, I understand the market this way. And it's like, okay, cool, we're having a problem.
Yeah, more recently, it's been the latter, because I usually work with very big personality males who they've had a lot of success because of that, them trusting their gut and their big personality, but they've been capped, they've hit a plateau, and that's why they bring me in. So before I even onboard them, part of the onboarding process is asking them what success looks like. Just tell me what success looks like for you in this campaign. Tell me what success looks like for you, us working together, so that I have that in text. So I can refer back to that at any point if they're upset and be like, well, this is what you said success looked like. And if I'm doing that, then I'm really confused. Did you choose not to communicate when that changed? When did that change? And why did you choose not to communicate that to me? Because and then that takes all of the emotion out of it, because it's required to leverage emotion in marketing immensely. But when you are meeting someone where something is very subjective, the outcome is very subjective, you have to then take the emotion back out and go back to logic, because again, it's subjective. So there has to be multiple touch points within that process of, hey, this is still what you want, right? Or has that changed? You have to keep checking in with them constantly, because they might not even know that their expectations or their desired outcome has shifted. So with the data that you're collecting, with the things that you're doing, it must all be documented in order to kind of back yourself and back your claims. And then that logic can be presented during this subjective process, eliminating any room for, miscommunicated expectations or offenses. But more recently, I've been calling people to return to do the most basic type of marketing, and nobody wants to do it because it's wildly unsexy. Can you guess what it is?
It sounds cold by nature, and it's probably very, very very rote. I assume it's going to be some type of one-on-one outbound approach.
Yeah, very cold and door knocking and
Okay. Yeah.
because I have three businesses right now that they're local. And one of them's a cleaning business, and they're like, we can't get any new sales. And I'm like, well, how many people are you going next door to the place that you're cleaning? Are you guys going next door and say, hey, we just cleaned their house. Would love to get you on this schedule on Wednesday, right around this time. Would you love to have your house cleaned so that when you come home from work, you have a nice, beautiful, fresh home? They will not do it. They've done everything else
Mm.
on their to-do list. But that, I'm like, I'm not even asking you personally to do it. Go to a safe house and offer a job to a bunch of people who are in recovery, who are struggling to find jobs, who are happy for an opportunity, work with their case workers, get them out there doing this. You don't even have to do it. It's so simple. You're doing something great for the community. You're doing great for these people, and you get what you need done at a reasonable rate.
I love that strategy. I'm curious if the hesitancy around these local businesses not wanting to go door to door is a testament to. I can think of two things. One is, and I think they're both one and the same. This invites me to think a lot about the realm of experience around sales.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think the difference between marketing and sales for a lot of people in terms of like, where does the brain like kind of make that split? Marketing is a one-to-many. I'm not necessarily talking to anybody one-on-one. I'm doing this broad-based approach. And so you feel comfortable with it, right? Whereas sales is a lot more like, I'm actually targeted. This is account-based focus. Mm-hmm. This is not one-to-many. This is one-to-one. So now I have to actually interact with my potential buyer and handle the speculation of rejection, right? So a lot of people have to suffer around that. But then I also recognize, like you, Amanda, like it took you zero time, right, to just speak out the literal word that it takes to present an offer to the people next door. Mm-hmm. That's something that, like, granted, you're not sitting there in front of that door, but even if you were, I'm sure you could do the exact same thing if you were in that position, right? It'd just be like calling on your fellow neighbor, like, hey, you guys got to check this out. Yeah. But that kind of relationship understanding, it's a mixture of emotional intelligence. It's a mixture of empathy meets business, because you are ultimately selling something to somebody, but you're doing so because you think it might be of value to them. You kind of get like, there's this whole mindset around like, I'm trying to do you a favor here. I'm trying to do you justice to something that I think you might like. If you say no, you say no. But at least I asked.
Yeah, it's definitely ego and mindset, because there's first, as a CEO, I'm not going to go door to door. I'm not going to hand out pamphlets. I'm not going to do like the grunt work. I've already done that. Okay, well, if you already did that so well, you wouldn't be in this position right now.
Yeah.
And then the other part is like, the mindset of, oh, they're going to reject me. Gotta flip that. You have to so wildly believe in what you're offering that it would be a sin. You would be doing them a disservice of not offering them this opportunity to engage in your services or product. And most people they're begging for something. They go in there from a place of lack, whereas you should be entering into sales with a place of abundance of, I have something so incredible I want to give you. Like if you had a great, amazing steak that was mind-blowing at a restaurant, you wouldn't not recommend that. You would recommend it to everyone. You'd be the best salesperson for that restaurant. You'd be like, oh my God, you guys have to go. This steak is amazing, because you believe in it. You've experienced it. It gave you pleasure. It gave you everything you needed. And you want other people to experience that incredible experience that you have. Same with sales.
I think this cuts into, and this is one of sort of the ironies around marketing and sales, because it feels like a lot of business owners and founders want to, the ones who struggle with this particular arena. It's so funny. Some of them will sort of claim to themselves almost in a state of self-awareness, like, I have no problem referring my friends' products. I have no problem referring these other businesses that I've had an awesome experience with. Why can't I do that with my own stuff? What is your take on that, Amanda, from like a marketing strategy standpoint, and how to having that heart-to-heart conversation with those founders and CEOs? And also, how does founder-based marketing play into this broader role of like, both, like, again, it's a strategy and it's an operation. And if the founder isn't willing to buy into the strategy, God forbid they'll actually perform any of the ops behind it. But even then, there's also there's a lot to be said about how do you evaluate the founder's time or the CEO's time when they're the ones who are supposed to be taking the charge on marketing. How does that play out in the strategy side of things as well?
Yeah. Okay. So to go back to the first part of the question, which my brain is shorting out because I'm thinking about the second part now. Can you repeat the first part?
So the first question is, how do you sort of work with the founder, CEO, business owner who is, sometimes by their own claim, they have a very easy time referring other people's products and businesses that they know, like, and trust because they have good business logic and they see it. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to their own brand of content and whatever it is that they're producing, it's just a different mindset, right?
Yeah, that is, again, ego involved. So either most people don't like themselves very much. Generally, we just don't. If you're a high achiever, you really don't care for yourself usually because you're never enough. And so you're never hitting something that you think is worthy. And so why would anything you create be worthy to sell? Because it's a part of you. So there's a lot, and rarely do high achieving people go to therapy because they've been successful at a lot of things because they're high achievers. So they've never actually addressed that self-hatred. So we could get into that. That's my general issue when I come into businesses and help them restructure what they're doing and reposition their products and services. Is the self-hatred is really interesting. So they're not willing. They say they want to buy in. They say they're all into themselves, into their company, but they actually really hate themselves. So it's actually easier for other people to sell their stuff versus them to sell it. So that's one of the big first hurdles we have to get over. And then moving forward from there, it's the time of the CEO buying into the strategy, buying into what they're doing. If they come to me, they're usually in a place where they need help. And so it's not like sales are booming right now. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in search of marketing. They wouldn't be in search of consulting. And that's when I have to lay it down and ask them, if you had a problem, if you didn't have a problem, you wouldn't be coming to me. And so you've hired me, you've paid me to do this, and now you're unwilling to listen to me. So that's a reflection of you and a problem within you and your company. Let's do some anonymous polls of your employees and see how they feel about you and how you operate within this company. Let's see what they think they believe you to be, who they believe you to be, what they believe for you to be doing, because that's a symptom of a much bigger root problem than marketing or sales. And then there also is the conversation of, should a CEO be doing the busy work? And normally, again, no. But if you're coming to me, you're in a place to where things are not thriving, and your employees and or your salespeople and your clientele will need to see that you're willing to do anything to make it work. And that will rebuild trust and loyalty and relatability within the company, within the product and the brand, so that you can keep trust looping them through there. So it's not a forever thing, it's for the moment thing, until things get to a point to where they're operating again. Does that make sense?
I at the very beginning, the first thought process that came to my brain was like this sort of infernal engine, right? The system that's running so hot, full of hatred, and it's clearly producing, it's still generating heat, but it's doing so in such a wasteful manner, one would argue.
It's inefficient.
That's one side of that. Then I think to your point, I agree. Like the founder or the CEO who is at the top, I sometimes like to flip some people think of it as the pyramid. I like to flip the pyramid on its head and go like, they're actually at the bottom. It's everyone else they're serving, right? Mm-hmm. They need to take the lead. They don't necessarily have to get bogged into the busy work to the point where they're completely overseeing marketing as a role and responsibility, but they have to understand enough of it to be able to take charge, or at least be led by those who are in that position to sort of help guide them and coach them and put them in the direction, so that they can at least show to the rest of the group that they're leading, hey, I'm being led in this direction successfully, and I know that I can then proceed to lead you in this direction successfully, at least with respect to, me showing you an example of what this kind of work looks like. I've also seen down at the very operative level that, when it comes to like the founder-based led operation of, kickstarting conversations, whether it's on a lead gen side or in a cold outbound side, like that doesn't have to be the founder necessarily behind the scenes there. Like some people get caught up into that mindset where it's like, all right, the strategy is great, but I can't be the one behind this entire persona that's existing online. Like, you don't have to be. Like, you are just, as you just highlighted, you are a persona online. That is a brand. It's a personal brand. It's the brand of you, which is fine. But there can be an entire team behind that brand, just like there is an entire team behind your company. It just so happens to be that the focus from a marketing strategy standpoint is that your brand is going to be a lot easier to communicate with other personas online than the company itself, because no one likes to operate with a faceless company. People like to operate with people.
I've had multiple people come to me starting businesses and being like, I want a faceless brand like Apple and Google. And I'm like, well, cool. Tell me, who do you automatically think of when you hear the word Apple, when you hear the company Apple? You think of one person. Who do you think of when you hear Amazon and Facebook? You think of one person. You haven't earned the right to have a faceless brand. You haven't earned it yet. You have to have a name and you have to have a personal brand if you want to have a faceless one. And it's going to take decades and a lot of hard work and a lot of investment to get there, if that's something you truly desire. And then that also brings us to the point is a lot of these guys who want the CEO before their name but won't do the actions, they do want to have the face. And they're like, well, it's my brand, it's my company. Cool, bro. Not everyone likes you. So while you are totally all in on this, you're going to only be able to reach one type of people. But if you opened up the idea to training all the executives in your company on how to market and build their own personal brand for your company, now you have 5 potential massive affiliates and faces for your brand that are going to have far much more reach, and you've taught them how to do it. So now they're not going to steal your business. It's going to only benefit the business. And a lot of these guys are really afraid of letting other people have faces of their company. Your company ain't going to have shit if you operate in a stingy, egotistical way like that.
I'm shocked, but not surprised. I sort of have this sort of weird empathy for these folks who don't want to build the relationships within their business up such that they potentially have this sort of potential escape velocity, right? Where they can just go independent and kind of run their own show. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much that says about those relationships and the potential damage or restrictions they've created in order to build this initial dynamic. And then it's like, all right, now that I've organized you into this bird cage, like, of course I don't want you to leave, right? I just want you to sit there and sing. That's one way to look at this analogy. But to your point, the other way to see it is like, yeah, like let them be free and let them carry the persona and the brand that you yourself have organized and personified. Let them own a part of it. There's so much to be said about, people just needing to have enough skin in the game in order to want to stick around, because if they leave, then they lose that skin. I know this is a whole other conversation around like, what does it mean to provide vestment for your team to operate with you at a market level. Man, this is such higher level strategy that I can possibly think of right now. Like I was about to take a step back and go like, okay, you've got this executive team. They're obviously all really busy. They're not going to have all the time in the world to go do their own form of lead gen or content creation or things like that. But it's like, wait a minute, same principle. Just take the operation of who's going to be behind all of these parties, who's going to help them make sure their profile's up to date, make sure that their content is coming out on a regular basis, helping them kind of like just easily produce and spill out content. Like it's just a workflow. Someone just has to sit here and like, just like we are right now and create this raw content. And then it just takes a team. I mean, realistically, it takes a team, at least with respect to speed and time, but there's so many tools out there that make this whole process so swift. Like that's all it takes is just helping someone do the initial content creation efforts. And then the rest is just actual production, distribution, and follow through and engagement with the contacts that are then engaging with that content online. Like right. I say all that to point out that people think that that's an operation that they suddenly have to take on or that their team suddenly has to take on and that it's going to be particularly expensive. I mean, it's not zero cost because again, you're not dedicating your own time to it. You don't have that time. But the ROI is there. Like, look at a lot of the folks who are preaching about that. Look at the Chris Walkers of the world who are online on B2B social media and telling you, like, this is what actually works. And it's funny because this is where we get into sort of the dark side of of like marketing, both from a strategy standpoint and an operations standpoint, where sometimes your best leading indicators of success that you're doing well in marketing is 6 months later, someone reaches out to you and says, I've been following your content forever.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a huge fan, and I'm now coming out of the limelight to say, I need to buy from you like yesterday.
And I cannot tell you how many times that's happened to me, where I'm like, man, my content sucks, or it's not coming across, or it's not engaging. I'll randomly post something that's very raw and very real, and I'll have people be like, I saw your post yesterday. I want to book a meeting. It's just, now at this point, it's almost instantaneous, when it used to take years. It took me years to get to the overnight success, and now I'm having the overnight successes, but it does take time. It's really important too. I think a lot of people, like you said, really complicate this when they come into it. Oh, I don't have time to create or to film ads or to do this thing or that. And I just recently ran into that with someone who I'm writing for, and they want to keep watering down these scripts to where it's only talking head. And I'm like, I have 20 scripts that you told me weren't converting, weren't working, that were talking head, which talking head is like this, right? You're sitting at a desk talking. So we refer to as talking head. Whereas I was challenging this individual to take their phone and put it on a tripod in their car and film scenes in there and do it while you work. And actually, I have a piece of content coming out tomorrow. I was washing my car. I'm like, oh, I should create this content for myself really quick while I'm washing my car, because it's different. So I was able to multitask at that point and film an ad and wash my car at the same time. And it comes down to being very productive and intentional with your time. And if you're a small team and maybe it's just you and a couple of people you're outsourcing to, you have to book yourself like your own client. You have to put yourself in your own client list. No matter what business or service you're doing, you have to schedule time. So when we're into bigger companies and I'm trying to bring in different people and different executives, I'm just booking a meeting with you. I don't know why you're making this giant, oh my God, I got to film and do all this stuff. No, I'm literally booking a meeting with you, going to ask you 3 questions, video you while we do it, and now we have an amazing ad. But you, in their heads, they don't understand it, or they don't think, they always see the end version of it, which is incredible. And they think, oh my God, this is going to take so much to get there. No, I just need 30 minutes with you. I just need 15 minutes with you, and I got you. Another example, a woman, I was trying to write a book for her. And she's like, I don't have the time to sit down and do the interviews. I'm like, I need 2 hours. That's all I need. And I will have a bestseller book for you. Even if you're not efficient, I am. And I'm going to get what I need. And I'm going to sell the hell out of this thing. And it's going to give you an ROI that you could not even imagine if you just give me a snippet of your time. And that's what good marketers, good operators do. I mean, you know that. I'm talking your language. This is your wheelhouse of time and intention.
I can see the calendar blocks in the back of my eyes, just like rolling on the calendar there. Amanda, I really appreciate you putting a lot of frankness again. And again, I don't think it's blunt. I think it's really graceful, because if someone doesn't say these kinds of things, I don't know, maybe, it could be argued that this is a marketing strategy in and of itself, right? Just to kind of put a little tongue in cheek toward it, that by reaching out and explaining to the audience of business owners that are looking for these types of marketing services, if they want good strategy, they have to recognize where they're failing to sustain a healthy strategy themselves. Whether they know it or not, or how well they know it, like, that doesn't matter. Like, the point is, you need to be aware enough to recognize that you need help. Then from there, you have to be well aware of the situation, and you have to step out of the way of being the problem that's actually, getting into the solution, which is some other third-party provider, or, your team, or just you yourself. Like, you're trying to meet certain results on a marketing basis. And the operation is really simple. Get out of the way. Like, listen, understand, like, provide your insights on like what you see is going on at the market, but then get out of the way. Right. And let the parties that you've brought in who operate on their zones of genius, let them do what they're supposed to be doing. Because again, if they've done their job right on a professional level, they have guarantees around, well, listen, this is what I offer to do for you. This is the level of performance you can expect from me. And to the extent that they want to, they're going to say, and these are the results that we should be looking after. If we aren't, then I have my guarantees. I have my policies around this. I'm going to make sure that you're whole, right? That is on a classic business case like that. That's you figuring out how to do business with someone, right? That's you making a deal with someone in the realm of marketing. And my one piece of advice to kind of leave with on that is, if for whatever reason you don't feel comfortable with whoever's offering to serve you on an operations level for marketing, whoever's looking to serve you on a strategy level for marketing, find a third-party advisor, someone you know, like, and trust, who has no skin in the game about whether or not you end up closing a deal with any party in this arena, but has enough knowledge to be able to vet out, source, and determine if the person that you're working with and the deal that they're putting on the table for you is up to snuff. I could say that for any type of operation, but I think for marketing especially, it's really, really helpful if you don't know what you're doing to just reach out to a friend and say, hey, is this reasonable?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, 100%. I can't tell you how many times I've been called into that position of, this just doesn't feel right, or am I crazy, or is this crazy, kind of conversations with business owners. And I'm like, absolutely not. This person has no idea I just did it for a wholesale company the other day. They called me in and they showed me the deck that the marketing agency sent over. And they're focused on what's on the screen. I'm focused on what's not on that report. I'm like, well, where's your LinkedIn profile? We don't have a LinkedIn profile. You're B2B and you don't have LinkedIn data. Excuse me? And it was just funny. And I'm like, well, where's your geotagging stuff? Where's this? Where's that? And all I could see wasn't there. All he could see was the data being provided. So you're absolutely correct. Bringing someone in from the outside who does not have skin in the game can provide immense value just from a shift in perspective. And it goes the other way around too. With marketing, you have to have a shift in perspective, and you have to have marketing and sales coming at it from a different angle than anybody else in your niche or your industry if you want to stand out. And a lot of times that feels like it is really scary because it's not been done before, but that's the whole freaking point. If you want to make more than you never have before, you're going to have to do something you've never done before. Welcome to life.
Amanda, welcome to Tuesday. That's for everyone here. I just want to share welcome to Tuesday. Today is May 21st, 2024, 10:15 a.m. incoming. Amanda, thank you so much for the time today. I really, really appreciate it. Do you have any final words that you want to share surrounding, where people can find you, where people can come and contact you? I'd love for folks to be able to figure out how to go about reaching you as a result of listening to this.
You can ask Conrad because he's got an incredible network. No, I live on Instagram. So Amanda Catarzi is my handle. DM me. I've got a system for my DMs, and that's where I can connect personally with a lot of leads and help flesh out what you actually need in your business. And even if it's not me, then thanks to people like Conrad, I'll be able to connect you to the right people.
Folks, if you ever need a personal intro to Amanda, I will do so in blitz scale pace. Please allow me. It's an honor. Thank you, Amanda. And until next time.
Thank you.